Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the athletic fields here at Milford High School, as Milford TV is happy to bring you coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics. Once again, this is Tim Coet on the call, wrapping up a pair of senior night games out here on the Milford soccer pitch this week. We had the girls in action earlier this week, and now tonight it is the boys celebrating their senior night and also playing host to one of their fierce Kelly Rex Division rivals in the Franklin Panthers. This has been at times a contentious rivalry between these two schools this season. Milford was able to narrowly edge out a victory up in Franklin earlier on the season, a game that had propelled Milford into first place in the Kelly Rex Division standings temporarily, but then Milford ran into a rough patch from there with some key losses that for a while pushed Milford all the way down into third place in the standings. They've moved their way back up to second. And so Milford comes into the match with an overall record of 10-5-2. And the Franklin Panthers come in with an overall record of 14-2-1. So these have been two programs playing at a high level at times this season. Milford has struggled to be at full capacity in terms of their player complement on the field this season, and that is unfortunately the case for them here once again tonight, as Eduardo Castro, their leading scorer on the season, is out of the mix for tonight's game. And so Milford will look to fill that void. Eduardo Castro played a pivotal role in a couple of different senses when these two teams met up a couple of weeks ago. Scored an early goal to help Milford build up a lead, and then ultimately with some contentious play out on the field, Eduardo received a red card and missed about the last 20 minutes of that game, and also had to take a seat for the next two, as is the case when a red card is issued at the high school level. And so that certainly played a factor in that game. Milford was able to hang on despite being down a player for a good portion of that second half for that 2-1 victory. And so Milford looking for the season series sweep against Franklin. Franklin, who looks to be positioned to end Milford's reign of Hockomock League division titles. For the last 4 years running, Milford has walked away with division titles, 2 in their final 2 years of the Davenport division, and then they have won the Kelly Rex each of their first 2 years here in the larger school division. But right now, Franklin comes into play today with a 5-point lead in the division standings, and with this being the final game for both teams, not an opportunity for Milford to make up that ground. Both of these teams positioned to make their way into the playoffs. We'll see ultimately how both programs fare from there. Excellent head coaching on the sidelines for the Franklin Panthers, their longtime head coach Fran Basidas. Coach Antonio Pinto, who has coached this team to another double-digit win regular season and hoping for some success in the postseason as well, which again, that will start to become the focus after this game wraps up today. Milford looking to attack from right to left across your screens here as we settle in for first half action. Lucas Fernandez once again in net for the Scarlet Hawks. Now, talking about injuries, one of note on the Franklin side is at their keeper position, Griffin Tolanen, who has been one of the top keepers in the league this season, out with injury. So it is the junior Paxton Rosen who is in net for the Panthers this evening. Defense trying to break this ball out. Milford trying to clog up that middle, but this ball comes across the center line. Severio Fulginiti there to break things up on the Milford side, but a quick toss in here for Franklin down towards the corner. And it is Fulginiti again working hard, pushing this ball back out to the midfield, and it's eventually going to take a roll out of bounds. And Franklin poised to toss it back in. Similar offensive numbers for these teams on the season. Milford has scored a total of 47 goals on the year, Franklin at 40. Franklin with the edge in goals allowed. Franklin has just allowed 14 goals through their 17 games on the season. Milford has allowed 23. That's through the combined efforts of a number of players who have pitched in at the keeper spot for Milford this season. It's been good to see Lucas Fernandez healthy for the stretch run of this regular season after, at times, Jackson Pfeiffer, and then also a lot of good work from Nate Dennis in net. Helped keep things stable at that keeper spot. Milford picking this ball off, trying to feed it up ahead, and an aggressive play out from in front of the goal by Rosen is able to stop that chance. And that looked to be, for the Scarlet Hawks, Gabriel Machado, who was a freshman just recently called up to the varsity team, was trying to press that action. Still in the early stages of this match. Just under 35 minutes on the first half clock. It was a mild day here in Milford today, and certainly much better conditions as this game gets underway than what the girls team had to deal with during their senior night game, as this free kick comes in, deflected away by Lucas Nelon. And now here is Nick Ribeiro with some speed. And trying to play this ball up ahead for Rodrigo Lorenzo. But a little bit too slow to develop, and you have to wonder if maybe Ribeiro could have taken that ball up himself for a look on net. Back defensively, Nelon pushing this ball back towards the middle of the field, and now up ahead for Franklin's Wyatt Herndon. And now back along the near sideline, but that ball is out of play. Milford will toss it in and immediately find Nick Ribeiro. Now along the near sideline, Milford could not save that ball from going out of play, trying to make a quick move forward. The last time we saw this team in action was in their game just following their previous matchup with Franklin. And that's where that tough stretch began for the Scarlet Hawks, a stretch of 3 matches where they only came away with a single point. 1-0 losses to Oliver Ames. That was the game that we covered last year on Milford TV. Then it was a 1-0 loss here at home against the Attleboro Bombardiers. And that was followed up with a 2-2 tie against North Attleboro, a team that has really given Milford a hard time this season, gritting out a come-from-behind 2-1 victory earlier this season, and then fighting for the draw here, or I should say fighting for the draw at their home field. That's a North Attleboro team that currently resides in 4th place in the Kelly Rec standings. But Milford's been able to right the ship in their last 2. They fought for a 1-0 victory against King Philip on the road back on October 20th, and then most recently on the road against Taunton on the 24th. Milford was able to put up 4 goals in a shutout victory. Scoreless here, still in the opening 10 minutes of play, as Arthur Gomes fights for that ball alongside Nick Ribeiro right at midfield. Franklin pushes it back towards the center circle, and now up ahead where it comes through, and now deflected to the near corner, played by Wyatt Herndon, the sophomore for the Panthers. Ball ends up out of play, and we'll have a goal kick here for the Scarlet Hawks. Back towards midfield here with just over 31 minutes remaining in this first half. And now a pause on the toss in for Franklin along the far sidelines. The Panthers fans situated in the visitors section across the field. This has been a spirited rivalry between these two schools this season, in particular here in boys soccer, but we typically see some very hard-fought games that can at times have emotions spill out onto the field, and it'll be interesting to see if that is the case coming up tomorrow, as the two football teams from these schools will square off in the final week of the high school football season before playoffs are determined. Arthur Gomes with a quick play to slide it and knock that ball out, as once again Franklin continues to feed Wyatt Herndon down in that near corner, trying to make something happen here early. And there again is the young freshman for Milford, Gabriel Machado. Controlled by Franklin right through the center circle. Machado giving chase. Gomes closing in as well. And Franklin forced to play it back to their D. Warmer conditions when the sun was out this afternoon. We had temperatures well over 60 degrees when we started to set up for this game this evening. However, it has started to cool off now with the sun all but set off in the distance. Lights on here at the turf field, and we expect the temperature to continue to steadily drop. Should be down into the 40s by game's end. So cool conditions as this one continues on. Jockeying for position along the far sideline for Franklin, that is Hansi Jakes. One of Franklin's top scoring threats on this season. And again, Franklin plays it back, this time all the way back to Paxton Rosen. And now starting the breakout towards the far side, as we have a little more than 28 minutes to go in what has been a scoreless first half so far. Ribeiro now trying to feed Arthur Gomes over on the near sideline, but out of his reach. D-to-D pass over towards Lucas Ribeiro-Nelon. Ribeiro now, Nick Ribeiro on the far side of the field. Up ahead to Lorenzo, and then out of the reach of Machado, pushed back deep, and Fernandez will pick this ball up and reset things for the Scarlet Hawks. Stepping up through a couple of defenders, now able to advance across midfield, now trying to use some slick footwork. Lorenzo there in support, but Franklin takes over. And now that ball grabbing a piece of Fulginiti as it pops out of play. Milford recognizing all of their seniors before this game this evening. This ball is angled out of harm's way. Machado keeping it in play and feeding Ribeiro, and then back to Machado just out of his reach. Gomes now with a long toss finding Machado. Good ball control for the freshman. Our first chance to see him in action, as again he was elevated to this varsity squad very late in the season. Ball traveling the width of the field and out on the far sideline for a Franklin goal kick. Clock continuing to run now towards 25 minutes and 30 seconds to go in this first half. Gomes to Fulginiti, who sends a long pass in the direction of Nick Ribeiro, and now Machado controls. A couple of quick passes to find Andre Mora, and then all the way back to the center line. As Milford again will try to gain entry, but instead a slow-moving pass gets knocked away by Franklin and now dumped deep and out of play by the Scarlet Hawks. These teams typically play very close, lower scoring matches, including the one earlier this season that took place in Franklin back on October 7th, that 2-1 victory. Milford ended up scoring both of their goals in the first half against the Panthers in that previous matchup, including Eduardo Santana, who opened the scoring. And then Johnny Castro notched a goal to make it 2-0. And then after the red card was issued to Eduardo Santana, it was Rex Sinelli off a feed from Noah Kane on a free kick play that resulted in the lone Panthers goal in the later stages of the second half, but Milford was able to hold on for the victory. Meanwhile, a free kick opportunity here for the Scarlet Hawks to be taken by Ribeiro. He keeps it low, feeds it to the far corner, and then the deflection out of play will result in a corner kick now for the Hawks. Ribeiro winding over to take corner kick duties. You can see a pretty significant breeze that right now looks to be blowing from left to right across the playing surface, so Ribeiro will have to slice this one through that breeze. Headed away by the Panthers. Ribeiro will gather it in along the far sideline, dumps it back in, and again Franklin is able to clear out. Looped back into the box now. John Borges fighting for possession. He goes down. A couple of players also hit the turf as that ball goes out along the far sideline. Milford knifing that ball back in briefly, but now dumped all the way the length of the field into the hands of Lucas Fernandez. 22 minutes remain in this first half, still scoreless. In the waning days of this fall sports regular season, just as quickly as we get started with coverage, already now the regular season at an end. Football team playing on the road tomorrow, and then we'll start to see playoff seedings take place over the weekend, and we'll know a lot more about who and where any Milford playoff games will be taking place. We certainly expect that there will be a home football playoff game coming up next Friday. See what ultimately happens in terms of playoffs with the boys soccer team. Also, we'll see if the girls volleyball program makes it into the playoffs as well. Machado now playing that ball up high. You can clearly see the qualities that Coach Pinto saw in Gabriel Machado to elevate him to this varsity squad. Good skill with the ball, quickness, and not easily intimidated either, as he has shown from what we've seen in this first half so far. So good addition to this group. A team that will be losing a lot of key seniors whenever this year comes to an end for boys soccer, which we hope is after a lengthy postseason run. Fulginiti with a long toss, again trying to find Machado. Now it's Tomei. Immediately gets it back. He and Machado go back and forth. Tomei trying to center this ball up, gets another chance, puts it right on the foot of Machado. Couldn't gather it in cleanly, now tries to fire a shot in that deflects off of Franklin and out of play. And another corner kick coming up now for the Hawks. Still scoreless here as we're now past the midway point in this first half. A low kick. Racing in was Kawa Pereira to try to put that past the keeper, but ends up back towards the corner. Now Franklin lofts it high up in the air, angled over in the direction of Nick Ribeiro, who fires towards net, but that one well high and out of play. And meanwhile, Gabriel Machado is shaken up back towards the corner. Seems to have lost his shoe as well. Looks like Machado will stay out there once he gets the footwear back in order. Right now the clock paused at 18 minutes and 38 seconds. Milford creating some opportunities here on their attacking side, but so far no goals to show for it. Not a lot of activity in front of Lucas Fernandez so far. Milford wins this ball. They'll fire it in from long range. It looked like Andre Mora who took that shot, but handled by the junior Paxton Rosen. And now a whistle at midfield, that one going against the Panthers. Ball just shy of Arthur Tomei, who was streaking in towards the near post. Taken over briefly by Franklin. Lorenzo breaking that up, and now the Panthers will push back to their defense yet again. Tomei now. Ribeiro intercepts. Good quickness for Ribeiro to win that ball. Now finding Tomei, and over towards Machado, who hesitates. Now feeds Arthur Tomei, who puts this ball in the box. Racing over in the area is Johnny Castro. The ball ultimately ends up out of play. And yet again, the Scarlet Hawks will have a corner kick. Plenty of corner chances in this last sequence. Milford looking to capitalize. Through traffic, this popped back towards the near post. Milford continues to control. It's Dennis and Fulginiti. Fulginiti gets bumped off the ball. Kawa Pereira now finding Lucas Ribeiro Nailon, who will hammer this ball out of play. And Another opportunity that Milford can't cash in on. It stays scoreless with now just over 16 minutes remaining in the first half. Fulginiti sending that ball back down. Good bounce towards Tomei. Arthur now weaving through defenders. Franklin lets this ball loose down the near sideline. It stays in play, and Pereira has to go after it. Now Andre Mora walking the tightrope down the near sideline. The ball eventually goes out of play off of Tomei. So toss in here for Franklin, who has been pinned back on their defensive side of the field for about the last 10 minutes straight. Milford now trying to force a shot in towards goal. It goes wide to the far side. And another goal kick here for Rosen. Fulginiti deflecting that ball. Looked like it caught him on the side of the face as it went out of play. Toss in here for Franklin. Continuing to feel cooler as we get deeper into this first half. Down into the corner, Pereira with good positioning, but this ball centered up, a chance, and it's deflected up over the goal and out of play. It looked like Fernandez got his hand on that to deflect it away. No, must have just drifted out of his reach, did not leave anything to chance, got that hand up there, but not making contact as Milford will have the goal kick. The near sideline now as Franklin tries to create some momentum on their side. Not been able to do much offensively to this point. Pushed back, picked up by Ribeiro. He'll cross back onto the Milford attacking side, now finds some open space. Gets it now to Arthur Tomei, who has one defender in front. Clears himself for a shot. It's knocked down and held onto by Rosen. A good leg on Paxton Rosen, sending that one high in the air, well past midfield. Now Lorenzo with a pass that does not quite make it towards Arthur Tomei. Tomei gets another chance at it here, feeds it up ahead. And a quick pass that looked to be directed towards either Tomei or Lorenzo ends up instead deflected away by the Panthers. Tomei will get a rest on the sideline now with a little over 12 minutes until the half. As this whistle goes against the Scarlet Hawks. Pass fed ahead towards Andrew O'Neill. But again, Milford making it difficult for Franklin to advance past the center line. Ribeiro with a good feed toward Lorenzo. Long pass for Lorenzo is handled by Danny De Silva. Now Machado, he has the ball taken away. And it's O'Neill up ahead for the Panthers. Now has to turn around, deals it back to the defense. who blasted across midfield. And Andre Mora sends it right back. And a near blunder for the Franklin defense, but they're able to clear the ball away just in time with Danny De Silva bearing down on that position. Now another one up in the air here. De Silva, it's just out of his reach. Gets right back in there. Now Nalon up ahead towards Mora, who looked like he collided heads with Trey Lovell. And then Nick Ribeiro down at the end of the play. Mora back to his feet. As right now, one of the officials checks on the condition of Andre Mora. Continuing to favor more the back of the neck, which must have borne the brunt of that contact. But Mora's going to stay out there. As we quickly approach the final 10 minutes of this first half, it is still scoreless. So a much different game to this point than what we saw in the girls' senior night. Really in all phases. The weather was dismal, but the play on the field was exciting. Certainly if you were a Milford fan, with the girls ultimately setting a single game high in goals scored with 6, defeating the Taunton Tigers 6-1 here on Monday. But this one more of a defensive battle to this point. Now under 10 minutes to go in the half. As Rosen sends a soft pass that is nearly stolen by Machado. Now pressed down the far sideline. A couple of good crisp passes. Get the ball to William Krizak. Now Mora trying to break things up in the corner. And this whistle is going to give the Franklin Panthers a free kick in deep. Like Krizak, who was knocked down by that contact initiated by Milford. An opportunity presenting itself here for the Panthers on a free kick chance. Looks like Noah Kane set up to take the free kick, directing Andrew O'Neill over in the area. Sends this one in, it's deflected by Milford, another chance. But again, Milford able to deflect away, now sending it a little bit deeper. Milford still not able to get the full clear. Franklin sending that one in as players go down. Krizak blasting that one well past the goal and out of play. Physicality ramping up here in the later stages of this first half. Still zeros on the scoreboard. Fulginiti blasting this ball straight up the middle and then right into the waiting hands of Paxton Rosen. Now up ahead to Ribeiro. Ribeiro sends one low on the ground and it's stopped again by Rosen. Now up ahead for Kawa Pereira. He sends it back across the midfield line. It's taken from there briefly by Connor Brown, one of the seniors for the Panthers. Substitutions now as Arthur Tomei returns, as does John Borges. Hansi Jakes back out for Franklin as well for this final stretch of the half. Just over 6 minutes to go. Milford getting the toss back in now sent into the box. A race on. Tomei getting good positioning now. Close defense from behind for Franklin. Tomei stays with it. Now cuts back towards the middle. Continues to protect. Gets taken down. No whistle. A lot of contact there. The officials let it go. No real argument from the Milford side. So we're about to cross under 5 minutes to play in this first half. It is still scoreless between the Scarlet Hawks and the visiting Franklin Panthers. Fulginiti now with a long toss right into the middle of the box. Now back out for Ribeiro. Now a little crossing pass. It's deflected, and Franklin's going to be able to send it back out. Whistle against Franklin just past midfield. Pereira helped back to his feet as he will now send this ball ahead. Knocked down by Tomei. Two defenders closing in. Arthur along the sideline. Deflects that ball off of Franklin, but it stays in. The Panthers are able to gather it. Now Jakes along the near sideline. Milford cuts in. John Borges breaks up that pass, but Franklin able to recover. They take it across the midfield line. And now gather in along the far sideline. Now dumped in, and no problem for Lucas Fernandez. Fernandez will roll it out to Pereira. And Machado to Ribeiro, who now sends it along the far sideline, and John Borges couldn't keep his feet. Nice little backwards pass by Gabriel Machado. He'll now pick it back up, and he'll send a ball in the general direction of the Franklin goal, but it is out of play to the far side of the net. And this will take us down under the 2-minute mark. Machado heading it down. Borges gathers in. Takes it over towards the far sideline. And then feeds Ribeiro, streaking in towards net. Ball ultimately in the hands of the keeper, Paxton Rosen. Ball gets past Mora. Will trickle across to the near sideline and out of play, where Milford will toss back in. Just about a minute remaining in this first half. Ribeiro with speed. Johnny Castro. Instead, this ball comes back out for the Panthers, played by Andrew O'Neill. Now out along the near sideline, Franklin trying to push the tempo here with time just about gone in this first half. Out of the reach of Jakes. Pereira angling that ball towards Ribeiro. Now it's Nelan who pushes towards center. Mora up ahead, but out too far for Tome to track down. And there is the final whistle. So these two teams showing off their defensive prowess here in the first half. They battle to a scoreless tie over the first 40 minutes, so that will send us into halftime right where we started. So for any of you joining us on our live coverage of this senior night game here tonight, hang with us for just about the next 10 minutes, and then we will return with second half action in this matchup of Kelly Rex rivals, Milford versus Franklin. The second half will start in just a few minutes here on Milford TV. Welcome back into the Milford turf as we begin second half coverage in this varsity boys soccer matchup between the Franklin Panthers and your Milford Scarlet Hawks. These two teams playing a scoreless first half, so we enter into second half action with zeros on the scoreboard for both of these teams. The second of their two regular season meetings coming here on the final day of the regular season for both teams. And there is Gabriel Machado with a check-in on net, fired that one in, and it took a diving play for the junior Paxton Rosen to make a good save. That infused a little life into this Milford crowd that has been subdued so far, with a real defensive chess match going on between these two teams. Nick Ribeiro now slicing this ball over to John Borges. He pops it back out to Lorenzo and now back to Nate Dennis. Dennis will pick it back up now along the near sideline. Borges leaves it for Dennis. He'll send one in that curves off to the far side. A nice idea there with the give and go between Dennis and Borges. And so Milford creating some offensive chances here right out of the chute. Not quite 2 minutes into this second half. Tim Coet here with you on the call. Patrick Garapi manning the cameras, braving the chilly fall conditions on top of the press box. We're rain-free for the game today, but much cooler than it was for Monday's contest between the girls soccer teams of Milford and Taunton. Despite the rain on Monday, it was very mild. Today, it started out that way, but with night falling, the temperatures have fallen steadily as well. Quick toss in here by Hansi Jakes down into the corner. And this takes a hop off the side of the cage. Goal kick here for the Scarlet Hawks, still in the early stages of this second half. Pushed along by Machado. Down to the near sideline. Tomei peels off. Instead, will toss it back in. Franklin trying to break it out. They keep it in along the near sideline. Quick closing speed there for Jakes. Now Lorenzo gets spun off the ball. Ribeiro trying to feed it back towards Dennis. Dennis has been right in the thick of things here in the early stages of the second half. Coach Pinto animated on the sidelines, directing his players out on the field. Now Borges all the way down into the near corner, leaves it. Machado trying to play it from there, but looks like they'll say that ball did just tick out of play along that near sideline. There's Andre Mora stepping in. Both of these teams in double digits in victories. Milford with 10, Franklin with 14. Milford will gain a head of steam on this toss-in deep on the attacking side. Lofting it in towards Machado. It's directed back out. Borges trying to reel it in. Get the pass back, but lets that ball trickle too far out in front, and now Franklin can take over. All the way back now to Lucas Ribeiro Nelon. Some quick passes for Franklin allow them to get back across midfield. Lorenzo taking that ball away from Jakes. Now toss in. Now this ball dangerous in some traffic. Milford able to get it out towards Tomei. Tomei sends this ball upfield. It stays on sides with Borges racing, running out of real estate. He's able to slow the ball's progress, but gets taken out by the turf. Now Lorenzo gains possession back, drifts a pass over towards Arthur Tomei. Tomei will send this one in a little bit over the crossbar and out of play. Seems as if at least once a game you run into one of those situations where players can't quite get traction the way that they would like on this playing surface. Dumping this ball back in. Franklin responds. Knocked out of play by Mora. Now Milford having to quickly angle this ball out of harm's way, getting it back as far as center, but deflected back onto the Franklin attacking side. Now it's Borges again. He has Ribeiro up ahead. That ball takes a hop off of Connor Brown. Now Borges. And then all the way back to Nate Dennis, who loops it just out of Machado's reach. Now Ribeiro on to Borges. And Dennis sends that one that forces Nick Ribeiro to duck out of the way. That was a missile. Fortunate that Ribeiro was able to react in time. Now Nick sends a shot that is deflected. And a corner kick chance now for Nick Ribeiro. Just saw his life flash before his eyes on that vicious ball that came through. That ball right at the feet of Kawa Pereira, and it's deflected in, and Milford gets on the scoreboard. The Scarlet Hawks take a 1-0 lead. It looked to be Pereira that was the one that jammed that ball in. And some celebration after the fact for good measure. So Milford able to break the deadlock. And so now Machado going down. And so I do believe it was Kawa Pereira who will be credited with the goal off of the corner kick. Milford has had so many corners in this game. Only fitting that they finally get on the scoreboard thanks to a corner. So after nearly 50 minutes of scoreless play here, Milford gets on the sheet, and now this one, a fingertip save by Rosen, and he's going to cover up. That one blasted in from long range. Full elevation on the leap for Paxton Rosen, who was able to slow that ball's progress just enough that even though he couldn't hang on, it did not cross the goal line. A critical stop there for the junior. And right now, Milford applying a whole lot of pressure. Free kick opportunity now for the Hawks. Looks like Nailon, Arthur Tomei both over in the vicinity. And this ball is sent high up over the goal and out of play. A little too much on that kick for Nailon. Another ball delivered high out of play. That drifted off into the trees. So a new ball will come out onto the surface here. 28:44 on the second half clock. Milford now with a lead on top 1-0. Milford looking for a season series sweep against Franklin. Milford has had good success in this head-to-head matchup in boys soccer in recent memory, going back to the 2018 season. Milford is 5-0-2 in the last 7 head-to-head meetings. That includes a victory earlier this season. The 2 ties between these 2 schools both came in their regular season matchups last year. Both games ended in 1-1 draws, both here and in Franklin, but prior to that, Milford had won the previous 4 straight, both matchups in 2020, and then single regular season meetings in 2019 and 2018. But this, of course, right in the heart of Milford's run of dominance in boys soccer. There have not been a lot of losses to any teams for Milford in their previous 4 seasons. Lucas Fernandez doing some jogging in place, trying to stay loose, has not had much action out in front of him in this half so far. Franklin able to get this ball just onto their attacking side of the field, now fed down the near sideline where Neilon will watch that ball go out of play. Outside of Franklin's loss to Milford back on October 7th, the only other loss this season for the Panthers came all the way back in their 2nd game of this regular season on the road against Oliver Ames. The Tigers were able to drop 5 goals on Franklin and a 5-1 victory. This is a defense that has been very strong for Franklin all season long. That 5 goals is by far the most that they have allowed in any single game this season. As a matter of fact, they have not allowed more than 2 goals in any other game this season. They have 10 shutout victories on the season. So this is a team that has been fantastic defensively all season long. That defense yielding a goal to Milford here early on in the second half to give Milford a 1-0 lead. It is still that same 1-0 margin now with just a little over 25 minutes left to play. Milford trying to find John Borges, that ball just out of his reach. Franklin gathering in, pushing this ball to the near sideline for Wyatt Herndon. Now this ball dumped in deep. Franklin able to get to it. That's Michael Fernandez Martin. Now Milford deflecting this ball, but right in the direction of Noah Kane. And now Machado able to push it out. Franklin now back with it. All the way in and off the hands of Lucas Fernandez and out of play, so that will allow for a corner kick. I believe this is the first for Franklin tonight, after Milford's had about a half dozen, their last of which resulted in their goal. Franklin fans now across the field starting to make some noise as this corner kick is looped in, directed out by Borges. And driven out of play off the foot of Herndon for Franklin, and so that will end the threat. Hard deflection after that Milford goal kick. Herndon now to O'Neill. Fernandez Martin ending up on his back, and that results in a free kick here to be taken by the Panthers. And this ball deflected back towards Fernandez, who makes the stop. That might have deflected off of a Milford player in towards that near post, but Fernandez was able to cover it up. It's been so fascinating watching Lucas Fernandez since he's been able to return and play healthy through the second half of the season. Just a very quiet, workman-like approach, but is so steady back there. It's a contrast in styles we got used to for so long watching Kevin Gomes operate as the keeper for the Scarlet Hawks, who made some spectacular saves over his tenure, was a player that was much more demonstrative out on the field. But Fernandez, just a different style, lets his play do the talking, and his play has been solid. Unfortunately, just taking over the keeper position for this 1 year as he is a senior. .21.5 minutes on the second half clock. Still just one goal on the board. It belongs to Milford. Now right on the foot of Lorenzo, carries it to the edge of the box, then that ball might have been deflected on the way through. Indeed, they point to the corner. Rodrigo Lorenzo will send this ball in. Not much wind on this side of the field for the moment. Right into Lucas Ribeiro Nailon, tries to turn around and deflect it in. Instead, it goes back through a crowd and ends up in the back of the net for another Scarlet Hawks goal. That was through a crowd. Was it the freshman Gabriel Machado? And so the Scarlet Hawks double their lead. It looked like that might have sort of pinballed through the legs of Paxton Rosen and then ultimately went in. So indeed, Gabriel Machado with the goal. And the freshman who was the most recent addition to this varsity roster, really making a big impact in this game, now giving the Scarlet Hawks a 2-0 lead. And so I do believe that was the first varsity goal in the young career of Gabriel Machado. And so after neither side was able to get much done offensively in the first half, Milford with a pair of goals. Playing without their leading scorer on the season in this matchup tonight, but have been able to take care of business so far, but still a ways to go. Just a little over 19 minutes on the clock in the second half. Taunton with a toss in deep. This ball taking a big hop right out to the center of the field. Milford struggling to get the clear. This ball popping up a mile high and eventually will tip out of play. Toss in here for the Panthers, trying to push back now after falling behind in this game 2-0. Not much in the way of contact there, but the whistle comes out. Looked as if Trey Lovell had just tripped over himself, but gets the benefit of the whistle here. Lets a free kick drift, and the header goes wide. That looked like Andrew O'Neill, who was there trying to redirect it in, but sends it wide to the near side. So we will continue on scoreless. Now here is Machado again. He finds Rodrigo Lorenzo. Ribeiro down on his back, fighting for the possession. Now it's Tome along the far sideline. Lorenzo back into the play, pushes it forward. Machado up with it. He sends in a shot on goal, and the stop is made by Paxton Rosen. Now Nate Dennis dumping back in. That ball ends up taking a hop over the Milford bench and out of play. 16 minutes and 55 seconds left in the second half. Milford 2, Franklin nothing. Earlier on in the season, we thought that this match tonight might have had potential division championship implications, division title implications, I should say, but that little stumble late in the season for Milford ended up being the difference. If the score holds, then Milford will have the consolation of sweeping the season series against the Panthers. Franklin having to track that ball down before a toss-in. And then again, looped out of play. So the way things stand right now, in the Kelly Rex, we'll get to that in just a moment. First, a corner kick chance coming up here for the Panthers for Noah Kane. Those flags again blowing hard from left to right. This ball comes down right at the feet of the Panthers, and that one knocked in for the first score of the game. That took a perfect hop right to the feet of, I believe, Maxwell Tobin. I believe that was actually Stephen Lee. But regardless, a quick turn of events there on just a perfect hop for Franklin. Executing the shot to cut Milford's lead in half, so now a 2-1 game. A score that is very familiar from when these two teams matched up earlier on the season. And Milford now with a nice ball ahead to John Borges. Can he clear himself? That ball knocked away. That goes out off of Milford. Still all kinds of time with this lead shaved down to just a single goal now for Milford. And now the Hawks blasting this ball across the goal and out of play. So again, this game playing out with a lot of similarities to when these teams met up last. Milford was able to build a 2-goal lead in that game. Franklin chipped away with a goal late in the second half to make things close. Milford playing at full strength here in the second half, which was something that they weren't able to do after the red card in that first matchup. And now this ball kept on the ground. That hops off the side of the cage. Milford on the move. Andre Mora hesitating. Now gets around 2 defenders, takes this ball in deep, continues to use some good footwork, now gets knocked off the ball. Melon pinches in, feeds Lorenzo. That ball eventually makes its way to John Borges. Borges trying to center it up, but that one squirts behind the goal. Out of play once again, but a corner kick coming up. As Milford gathers in. Less than 12 minutes on the clock. This ball deflects out towards Nate Dennis, now through a crowd. Some shoves in there as Gabriel Machado tried to settle that ball down. Now it's Ribeiro. Just out of the reach of Machado. Now Mora. Won by Borges, cuts back to the middle, has Machado there, able to feed it into the freshman who sends it low, and it's stopped by Rosen. Maybe not quite as much on the shot as Machado would have liked, but a nice play there, executed by both Borges and Machado to create the chance. Gabriel Machado's goal, now the difference in this game, keeping Milford in front. As we are now about to dip under 10 minutes to play. And now this ball blasted all the way up off the side of the press box. It's the second time in the last few weeks we've seen one almost sneak into the press box. The first one a few weeks ago died in the bleachers just shy of the windows. That one actually went over the windows and hit off the fencing around the top of the press box. Fortunately avoiding our intrepid cameraman Patrick Garapi up on top. Franklin able to muscle that ball away from the Hawks, now sending it in through the box. Fernandez sliding out as that ball is deflected away. These Milford fans wanting to see the Scarlet Hawks continue to play hard to the finish. A corner kick chance here for Franklin with just a 1-goal lead now for the Hawks. This ball in low and past Fernandez, and there is your equalizer. And so now some extra celebration on the Franklin side after, as Franklin hustles back to the middle of the field, and it is a new game now, tied up at 2. And boy, have corner kicks played a huge role in this game tonight. And so that might have been number 8 again for Franklin with the score. So the Panthers have erased Milford's 2-goal lead. All of the scoring taking place here in the second half, and now what do these final 7.5 minutes have in store? Everything was going Milford's way. But how quickly that can change. And now Ribeiro tripped up. That brings the whistle. Nick helped back to his feet. Now Nailon with the free kick all the way towards net. That just sneaks up over. Now Mora trying to take this ball back across the center line. Now dips back across, feeds Lorenzo. Rigo Lorenzo to the far sideline. And now with some room, leaves the ball behind, able to pick it right back up. Less than 6 minutes to go. As Milford hesitates, sends this ball in on a couple of bounces, no problem for Rosen. Jake's taking this ball up the far sideline for Franklin. Another player shaken up for the Scarlet Hawks. And this will stop the clock at 5 minutes and 17 seconds. And meanwhile, it looks like the teams will take a timeout here, so the clock will remain paused at 5 minutes and 17 seconds. Milford held a 2-0 lead midway through the second half, but a pair of unanswered goals for the Panthers have tied things back up at 2. And so a race to the finish line now. We'll take a quick pause here on the broadcast. We'll be back with the stretch run of the second half in just a moment. Stay with the coverage here on Milford TV. Set to resume action now, just over 5 minutes to go in this tied game between Milford and Franklin. The Panthers with a late surge here to tie it up. Trying to spoil this senior night for the Scarlet Hawks on what is the final game of the regular season for both of these squads. So slicing that ball up the far sideline, played back to the middle, now dumped in deep, and no one back there except for Paxton Rosen, the keeper for Franklin, playing for the injured senior keeper Griffin Tolanen. Rosen's made some good saves in this game to keep the score close, to give his team a chance to come back, and that's exactly what they've done, now tying the score. The clock is now frozen with less than 5 minutes remaining. Now Lorenzo finds Tomei along the far sideline. And Tomei, a lot of contact there. That looked like a shove of Tomei, but no whistle. Now Lorenzo fighting through a pair of defenders. Machado feeds the ball forward, but it's knocked away by the Panthers. Gathered back in by the defense at midfield. Now Borges with the header. Ribeiro trying to settle the ball down towards the near sideline. It's out of play. And it looks like we're going to have a card issued. And so that was a yellow card issued to Nick Ribeiro, who now has to head to the sideline. So this game stayed relatively mild-mannered for a while, but you've been able to clearly see the physicality really picking up here in the last 10 minutes or so, and now the yellow card issued. One of Milford's captains now on the sideline. And again, on a night where everything seemed to be going Milford's way, that has really changed here, and now the Scarlet Hawks vulnerable in this final stretch. Looks like Ribeiro now will return to the field. Nice play there by Nate Dennis. Now Machado, he has the ball taken away. And dumped in deep, that's gonna get over the reach of Rosen and in from midfield. That was Andre Mora, who is now mobbed on the sideline. He drove that ball from midfield. Paxton Rosen was caught too far out from the goal. It gets over his head and into the back of the net, and the Scarlet Hawks will retake the lead here with just minutes to go. This crowd absolutely shell-shocked to see that ball go in. Might just be the goal of the season. Scarlet Hawks now dumping this ball deep. We wait for the final whistle from down below. And meanwhile, Arthur Tomei down back on Milford's defensive side of the field. His teammates will try to stretch out a cramp. Everyone's still buzzing in the stands. Not see a goal like that too often, and just as it felt like Milford's backs were up against the wall, a 2-goal lead erased. Andre Mora trying to play the hero here. We'll see if this goal holds up. Some tense moments still to go here. So this ball left for Paxton Rosen. Out of the reach of Lorenzo. Pushed back by Machado. Now Lorenzo with the header. And now Borges sends this ball screaming into the stands. And a quick toss in now for the Panthers. Again knocked away by Borges. Tossing down towards the corner. Nalon with some hard shoulder-to-shoulder contact. Milford setting up for a goal kick. The fans imploring the officials to sound the final whistle. Now this ball taken by Machado. He'll dump it deep. It's scooped by Rosen. And now a whistle against the Hawks. Frantically, Franklin sets themselves. And now through a crowd, this ball popped straight up in the air. It drifts over towards the corner. And the play was offsides. Still a little time left. Everyone holding their breath for that final whistle. Good strong kick here, delivered the length of the field and now into the hands of the Franklin keeper. And there is the whistle. And that finishes off a wild senior night here tonight in Milford. The Scarlet Hawks with a 2-0 lead. Franklin comes roaring back to tie the game. And a miracle midfield goal for the Scarlet Hawks. Push them ahead 3-2, and they hold on to the finish line and win by that final margin. So the Scarlet Hawks indeed able to sweep the season series with the Franklin Panthers. And perhaps a little consolation as the Scarlet Hawks' run of division titles will come to an end this season, but able to topple the new Kelly Rex division champs in a couple of regular season matchups. So we'll see what ultimately lies in store for these two teams in the postseason. That is what's next on the docket for both of these teams. But for today, the Scarlet Hawks will celebrate a hard-fought victory. It was not easy, but in the end, Milford able to get it done. So again, the Scarlet Hawks able to defeat the Franklin Panthers by a final score of 3-2, a wild one here today. And so with the victory, Milford improves to 11-5-2 is their final regular season record. Franklin will fall to 14-3-1. So just 3 losses on the regular season for Franklin, but 2 of them came at the hands of this Milford team. So again, a hard-fought regular season, and now we wait on for the MIAA playoff seedings. And if there are any home playoff matches for the Scarlet Hawks team, we will certainly do our best to get them to you live here on Milford TV. But this wraps up our regular season coverage. So we will wait now for the playoffs to be determined. We feel very strongly that we will be back here at the field next Friday night for the first round of the football playoffs, as we fully expect Milford to be hosting a first-round football matchup next week. So we hope you will tune into that coverage live here on Milford TV next week. But that's going to wrap things up here for tonight. A big thank you to Patrick Garapi on camera for tonight's game. And I am Tim Coet. That final score, one final time, Milford wins it in a thriller, 3-2 over the Franklin Panthers. This has been a presentation of Milford High School Athletics here on Milford TV. So long, everybody.